Correct. Yes. Thank you for being here. My name is Jason Jasperson. I teach studio art courses here at Bethany Lutheran College, and you're participating in one of our receptions for the gallery here in the YFAC. We call it the YFAC, the Ylvisaker Fine Arts Center. The artist who is with us tonight for our reception and whose work you see around on the walls and whose work you see on your various feeds is Marcus Thomas. He comes to us from Richmond, Virginia, and I met him almost a year ago, about this time last year, in this same place, installing artwork with the design team from Willett Hauser Stained Glass. And we're going to hear some stories about maybe how that connection happened and learn more about his path, his priorities, his philosophy, and his practice. Please join me in welcoming Marcus Thomas. So we're going to sit comfortably, shuffle your seat, get your view. Hopefully you can get an eye line on us. All right, so Marcus, I think I would like to start with the origin story, the establishing shot. How is it that you became an artist?
Can you all hear me? Yeah. There we go. My origin story, usually the way I describe it is just that whenever I could pick up a pencil, that's just when I just started going. Most of the time people say, oh yeah, I can't even draw a stick figure. And back when, all the kids were drawing stick figures, I was trying to draw my favorite video game characters and cartoons. And I would put a piece of paper like on our old TV and try to trace it and things like that. So ever since I could remember, I've always been drawing. I ended up making short comics and characters for stories that I would create. I carried that all the way through elementary school, middle school, high school, and I just kept going with it. I started professionally in 2017, I believe, something like that. I was working at Chick-fil-A at the time. I was still doing the fast food biz, but I wanted to. Initially, I wanted to go to college for it, and I ended up. Excuse me. Sorry. I guess we can just go back to the question, just the origin story, because I'm giving the whole story. I think I've already said the origin part of it at this point.
Okay, so maybe the establishing shot has
the establishing shot,
been
yes.
established.
I'm expositing at this point. Yeah.
Okay, good catch. All right, well let's look around at the work. We've got some right behind our heads. You started to talk about professional work, and I'm aware of the connection, the professional connection here. Could you talk about the work that we see and the client?
So some of you might be familiar with the client. This is a collaboration that I did with Fishcoin Press. It is an indie publishing company that creates comic books, trading cards, a bunch of cool Christian artists came together and wanted to make something that we don't really see often. And so this wall in particular is a compilation of works that I did with them.
Can we talk about how you work? When somebody looks at these framed pieces on the wall, what is it that they're actually seeing, and how did it come to be?
What is it they're actually seeing? What do you mean by that?
The object. What's the nature of the object?
Nature of the object. Man, I just got off work, man.
Sorry. Well, is it a drawing? Is it a painting?
Yeah.
How do we define the thing?
Well, the thing itself, I would define as a digital painting. The subject matter in particular, they're each from different series that we did. Starting from the left, it was save for the one all the way on the end. That one is not fish coin, but this one right here, this green one, that was an entry into what was the title of it? It was The Resurrection and Life. And so what would happen is we would take these particular words. It was for a trading card series. And each trading card came with there was an illustration, there was a vocabulary word, and a commentary on the back along with a verse. And so one by one, we would establish, okay, what's the word for this one? That one in particular was heart. This one is icon. This one is gold, frankincense, and myrrh. We would research the words, we'd research the verses, and delve into what those things mean. Literally, and also to us as well.
Okay. So there's a couple directions I want to go. First, you talked about, I love picturing you at the television as a child tracing.
Yeah.
Video games or cartoons.
Yeah.
It sounds like pop culture was a big deal for you. Mm. And I think for a lot of artists, a lot of people nowadays who are interested in visual culture, that's an entry point. Mm-hmm. For me, it was Spider-Man and Batman, big time. Okay, so there's that direction, like you're saying trading cards, right? It sounds like you are doing the kind of thing that you would be collecting as a child or really fascinated with. True?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Content-wise, I think it doesn't take long for us to realize that your work has something to do with your Christian faith. Now I feel like I want you to talk about that.
Man, that is just what does it have to, like the significance of it? Or?
Let's save that for later. We're going to get to that organically. How did you get connected with this project?
So that is one of the very few times that the internet has actually helped me when it comes to my art. They just organically, the founder of Fishcoin, he saw a lot of the work that I was putting out, and at the time, I was just doing what I already know how to do. I was just creating illustrations that, whether they were explicitly gospel-centered or inspired by it in some way, I was just making stuff like that and putting it out there, trying to build my base online. And he saw some of my stuff, and he just messaged me, and he said, "Hey, I have a project that I think you would be perfect for." And then we just started working.
So he found you making things that you cared about.
Mm-hmm.
So would you say that there was explicitly Christian content in that work that he found?
Absolutely. The work that he references when it comes to how we first met was this picture of, it was of Jesus, and it was an image that I made of him like holding the keys to death and Hades, and he has this like triumphant war cry, and he's surrounded by like these flames and all these kinds of things like
intense.
That. Yeah, very, very intense Jesus. When I draw Jesus, a lot of the times I like action, and that a lot of that goes back to a lot of my interests when it comes to video games and television, and those sensibilities tend to make their way into what I create.
So I'm going to go back to the dream job. Like, let's parse that out. You did what you believed in. You did work that you loved. You said you were trying to build a base, and then you sort of get rewarded. Did it? How did it feel?
It felt um, validating. It felt extremely validating for someone to see my work and relate with it in that kind of way. It's not often that I get Christian artists, Christian creators who find me and we talk about these things that we relate with. I think sometimes in the art world, Christians are kind of far spread. I think I maybe have two other friends, like close friends of mine, who are Christians and artists. So it's really interesting in that sense.
So you kind of found a tribe, or a tribe found you,
Yes.
and that felt really good.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Do you know how many other illustrators work for Fishcoin?
The roster in particular, that might be maybe 20 plus, maybe something like that.
Any advice for aspiring Fishcoin illustrators in the room?
I mean, honestly, the way they found me was just that I was true to myself and true to my vision, and they saw a relatability there. I wasn't trying to be attached to any kind of business or label or publisher or something like that. I think authenticity is one of the biggest things for you to focus on. If that's something that you want to do, then being authentic with your pursuit is paramount.
As opposed to chasing
Yes.
a dream job or chasing a trend, maybe.
Yeah, definitely don't chase trends. Dream job, that's another thing that I can't really say 100% that there is a quote unquote dream job for me. I think my personal philosophy is that all artists at the end of the day want freedom, and that no matter what job they get, it's more than likely not going to align 100% with that freedom that they want to just create whatever it is. So usually they'll find something that closely aligns with that vision, with that desire that they have to create.
Can you unfold the idea of freedom for an artist?
Wow.
You said all artists want
Yeah.
freedom. What do they actually want?
Like in that freedom? Like,
yeah. I mean, how does it look?
I guess freedom in a sense that you are creating with joy that's a hard question.
Yeah, but that was a good start.
Yeah,
Creating with joy.
I'm rolling it somewhere.
Yeah.
It starts with joy. I know that for sure, because that's where the authenticity comes from. I think I could point you to works that I've done that I look at the colors and the lines, and I can tell you for sure that, like, oh yeah, I was not happy when I made this. And every single piece of work in here, like without restraint, I was joyfully creating each one of these. There was not a single ounce of like, oh, this is just something I'm just trying to finish up, or there was nothing like that in there. So when I consider freedom, I think that joy is an essential aspect of that as well.
So the works that we see here are maybe chosen for that purpose?
Hmm.
Can you say more about why these works are here? You said there are some that you're not satisfied with, or some that you didn't have that joy. Is there a principle that helps you choose what we see?
I just think the ones that are here are some of my most important on my journey, because some go as far back, I think, as 2016 or 17, and there are it's there are some things in here that I could probably pick apart as an artist who seeks to improve his craft. Like, oh man, this anatomy isn't what I would do now, or something like that. But it's still important in terms of where I was at the time, the story of my life at the time. They're all just timestamps for the person I was.
So, taken as a whole, this is maybe a slice of a self-portrait
Yeah.
of you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I feel like I want you to dive into a work. Take us on a tour of an artwork that's on the wall, your choice, and we can talk about things that we see. So, the way it's made, the colors, the lines, the composition. We can also talk about what you just hinted at. What's going on in your life? How are you feeling? Why does the thing exist?
Well, so it sort of feels narcissistic to say, but the one that looks exactly like me, that one right there,
That one might be a self-portrait.
that one might maybe sort of kind of be a self-portrait, but yeah. So just talking about.
Yeah, now this is going to, some people might have to turn around or look at it later. It's the image that we chose for the postcard, for promotion, for the sticker. Personally, I think it's masterful. I think it's the greatest thing I've seen you do, and you do great things. So I appreciate that you picked that one. So tell us more. What's there?
So there's a lot there. And those two, the one right next to it, it's an integral part of that piece. Eventually, there's going to be it's going to be a pretty long series, but that one was very important. I almost don't know where to start.
Well, let's start with what we see. Let's start with what we see. So, looking at the arrangement, I see a frame.
Mm-hmm.
I see a figure. I don't mean the plastic frame. I don't mean the picture frame. I don't mean the plexiglass. But there's there's an illustration element that has this arch with the gold and the pillars. I see a distant landscape. I see a squiggly line.
Mm.
We talked about that a little bit.
Yeah.
And there's a hiding waterfall in the bottom.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
and there's a jewel.
Yeah.
On the top. Okay, there's some prompts. Let's see where you go.
Okay. So I guess, well, the figure is obviously me. There's no secret there. That piece is a culmination of a lot of it's the culmination of me coming out of a wilderness season. So the wilderness, the rocky landscape in the background is this deep, dark valley that is symbolic of the past. It was like 3 or 4 years. Everything that led up to this particular moment. The frame itself, it's an arch, it's a gate. What I want to do with these pieces is represent in some form the city of New Jerusalem. And so with that, there are 12 gates, there are 12 gemstones that are the foundation of New Jerusalem. So each piece will have a corresponding gemstone that goes along with it. I forget the name of the ones that are up there right now, but there's some symbolic filigree within the arch that goes a bit more into my the feeling of that wilderness season and the other side of that.
So we're seeing you emerge
Yes.
from the wilderness
Yes.
into the New Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
Your posture seems to be suspended in midair.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a direction? We going up, going down?
Yes.
Hovering?
Yeah. Up for sure. There are some nods to another. A lot of my work is inspired by music as well. There's a song by this one rapper, Andy Mineo. I don't know if anybody in here is familiar with. Here we go. There's a song that he made a few years ago called Clarity. And I mean, that concept has been in my work for quite a few years because I was in a state of not knowing where I was going, not sure of the decisions I should make. And in this moment is the moment of like, oh, okay, like I'm above it all. I can see the whole journey at this point. I can see why I had to go through that. I can see where I'm going next as well.
So there's a really interesting mix here between what you're describing as a deeply personal experience, and then you're sort of looking to the book of Revelation as this recipe where I'm going to take this gemstone and we're going to have 12 gates, you know. You're putting yourself in that recipe. How about the squiggly line? Because it's in both. There's this white line, and I mean, I cheated. We talked about this.
Yeah.
And you'll see, like now that I bring your attention to it, you'll see it. There's a line, like a string, that sort of flows through some of these pieces. What's going on?
So at first it started out as just something that I would do in my sketchbooks to just kind of thread different pages together. You could start from the beginning of one of my sketchbooks and keep flipping, and it would continue to follow. And then on the next page, it would continue to follow. And I integrated that more into these pieces in a significant way. At first, it was just purely aesthetic, but the reason for it being there now is I guess it's the palpable yet invisible work of the Holy Spirit in these depictions. In the one we're talking about right now, you can even see that. I guess you could look at both of them. They're very unique movements in each of them. They're not moving in the exact same way, and there's a reason for that. The one that has me in it, you can see on both ends, there is like a movement as if somebody is lifting up both sides of the string. The subject isn't 100% being touched by the string, but there's influence that's happening there. And same thing with the other one. There's this dance that's going along. There's this heavy involvement with the figure, yet the figure can't 100% feel it. And it's symbolic for the Holy Spirit's work.
I just love that. I love it. So you have reasons, right? I mean, does it feel like you have a reason for every move you make on these things?
Not all the time. And I'm actually in a season right now where I'm trying to let my work breathe a lot more. at one point I thought that every single stroke, every single brush stroke had to be accounted for. Every single color had to be accounted for. Every texture, all of that kind of stuff had to be under my control. But nowadays, I'm much more comfortable with having just a basic idea and then just starting, and then eventually letting the work come into a life of its own. And then there's like a dialogue back and forth between me and the work itself at that stage. Like you control, you control what you can, but there are some ways you're going to have to let the work breathe. I think I do that a lot more when it comes to my work.
So with the string, the symbol of the influence of the Holy Spirit, you described the beginning of that symbol as something that was just a mark that was happening, that you were doing maybe without a good reason in your sketchbook, and you had the presence of mind to sort of listen to that, to wonder what that's about, and maybe let it grow into something. And when you talk about letting your work breathe, I go back to the idea of making things with joy.
Mm-hmm.
You don't necessarily have to be oppressive about what you need a piece to be. Let it emerge, let it develop a path.
Yeah.
Let's back away a little bit and think, how do you keep sharp? How do you make sure that you're maintaining your skills?
So I'm a self-taught artist. So I've always just put up numbers as far as drawing is concerned. It's just time that I've spent in sketchbooks, putting out pieces. Honestly, I mean, it's really simplistic to say, but just continuing to draw is what keeps me sharp. Good practice as well is necessary too. If you want to learn anatomy and you're going from, if you want to learn how to draw a human hand and you pull up a reference of a horse hoof, then it's like, okay, well then you're clearly not going to have good practice there. You might be really good at drawing a horse hoof, but not a hand. So good practice as well as just the frequency. Yeah.
So you set yourself goals?
Yes. Well, actually, tentative goals. Because there's what I don't want to do when it comes to my work is make it almost a legalistic kind of thing. Like I want there to be a freedom of like, hey, you can come to me when you want, or you can step away when you want. Sometimes if I stay in that place for too long, I can burn out, and that's not good long term, because eventually it's like, oh, well, what's wrong with me? I'm not enjoying this anymore. This doesn't feel like freedom anymore. So not always a plan, but it can happen.
Do you have a routine?
Not right now, I don't.
Have you ever?
Yes, absolutely. I would. I mean, just for art, or just the entire day.
I'll take anything.
Okay. Well, I mean, it involves the art. At one point, it was getting up early, going to the gym, coming back, breakfast, devotion, and then reading. Or sorry, not reading. Then drawing. I would do a 1 hour warm up of drawing just whatever. Nothing that's referenced. Could be something that I saw in the first part of the day. No references, just going in with it with no expectations. And then after that, I would figure out what it is that I want to work on for the day. And that could be something for a client. That could be another piece that I want to make. That could be a story that I'm developing. the hardest part for me is just choosing the thing that I want to do, honestly.
Uh, Trying to put the right words on this. This is about not giving up. Have you ever wanted to? Have you ever been close to giving up to stopping?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I shouldn't ask a yes or no question.
Go on.
No, you go on.
Well, yeah. So I have been. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that I considered quitting. Which, where I am now, I think, what does that even mean for somebody who is so ingrained into this to stop? I haven't quite found the answer for that yet. But yeah, it was in that particular wilderness season where there are certain prayers that I feel aren't being answered, and my life isn't moving at the speed that I want it to, and the opportunities aren't coming, and the money's slowing up, and all these different types of things are happening. And then meanwhile, I'm not seeing much growth when it comes to the people that I want to reach, the work that I want to do, my followers online. It's like, you reach a certain point and you're like, I should be much farther along with this, but I've been stuck here for a long time. So what's the point? Like, I put my work on the internet, and then maybe a couple of fire emojis in the comments, but other than that, it's there isn't really much else going on. And so, and especially when I consider how much time I put into it, and then I observe other people, and then I compare myself to their work and their success. I see. I think maybe last time we spoke, it's like, I spent 30 hours on something, and then somebody posts a picture of like an anime girl's head, and it's like everybody just is super excited about it. Oh my gosh, it's so good. Follower numbers are up. All of those kinds of things. Uh, Outside circumstances, my expectations and my comparison is really what almost killed my art.
Well, I'm glad you're back. So I'm thinking about the self-portrait again, and I think it would be interesting to compare it with this set. So we've got a set of two there. We've got a set here. This is for a client. Is this for a client?
No. These are just works that I was curious about the subject. I wanted to explore the thoughts that I was having on these particular subjects, and I wanted to give them a life, essentially. And like, even now, I haven't really pushed like trying to get those sold, or getting them printed online and getting people to buy them. They had a purpose that was purely just creating.
Does it feel like it's more than creating? It seems to me that you're processing somehow.
Yes.
You're reflecting.
Yes. Both times, the self-portrait, of course, is very specific to me, but both of them are a reflection of current events and the mind of the subject, what that subject needs, what that subject is receiving, the journey of that subject. And both are also inspired by songs. That first one is inspired by, again, I don't know, in here, a group called, oh my gosh, King's Kaleidoscope. Does anybody in here know who that is? Nobody? Okay. Well, my friend back there does. I need to listen to that. Yeah, so same thing there. Both of them are reflections just put on a canvas.
When we look at your artwork, when we see the things on the walls, we're not really seeing representations of a particular moment or experience or place, right? And you just referenced music. It's more like you're representing an experience, no, an interior state of mind.
I sometimes say a conversation. I don't know if that helps.
Okay. I think that just helps when somebody's looking at it to figure out what to expect. What is this?
Or maybe like an internal dialogue. I think possibly that too. I'm infamously an overthinker, so sometimes just putting it on the canvas is very therapeutic.
Do you know where you're going when you start a piece?
I'm trying to see if there was one. Probably where I'm starting, not all the time. I mean, I think.
How about for the client work?
Yeah.
You know, do you have to get an approval before you get going?
Yes. Usually it is coming up with concepts, coming up with thumbnail sketches, just to see the overall composition, and then maybe a few, maybe some feedback on the subject matter and things like that. But I mean, for this project, there was a lot of trust. He already knew what I was about, and so we did communicate while we went along. But yeah, initially there was no concrete plan when I started, and I'm sure if I pulled up the files for the works in progress, you would be shocked as to what they looked like before.
So that's kind of what I'm getting at. That there's got to be some pretty drastic iteration, I think. I suspect that you're searching around, you're trying to find what's right, you're auditioning ideas and colors and arrangements.
Yeah, that can be really interesting too when it comes to trying to have a following online, because you can make something and then put a work in progress on the internet, and then people grow attached to that, and then you come back and you're like, here's the finished piece, and people are like, what happened? And it's like, it's better now, and they're like, we don't think it is, and it's like, you can't say that.
I think a lot of fan bases become like that.
Right.
They feel ownership.
Yeah, yeah.
That reminds me, you can own these things. Prices are on the tags and priced to sell, I would say.
I would agree.
One thing I want to say is that it occurs to me that you make the invisible visible. And I just want to put those words out in people's minds. What we just talked about is a state of mind or a conversation, internal dialogue. I think that fits really well with Christian content. When we think about what it is we believe, there are so many things that we talk about that are really hard to make visible. So that's a big part of what I admire about your work. It's a big part of why I invited you. I'm feeling like maybe we're moving to the audience, unless you've got anything pressing.
Not yet. I hope somebody in the audience presses me.
Okay, so start the gears turning out there, and I'll try to bring a microphone to you so that we can feed the camera and the sound system with good sound.
Hello.
Hey.
Which work is your favorite, and how long did it take you to make it?
Wow, that's tough. Because yeah, like sometimes a piece that I don't spend a whole lot of time on can end up being my favorite, or even a piece that I think it might be riddled with technical errors or things that I want to change. It can have the most important subject matter, and so it's like, oh, well, that one is my favorite. I would probably say right now, and this is going to sound narcissistic again, but the one with me in it is currently my favorite. For a few different reasons. I like how it's composed. And the story behind it is it's really important to me in this season of life right now. So that one carries a lot of weight in that regard. As far as how long it took to finish it, I stopped counting at like maybe 20 hours or something like that. And that's mostly because it also went through just layers upon layers upon layers of change. And so it did not look like that when I first started. I was trying to figure out how to communicate what it is that I wanted to effectively. So, there were some things that I would do and I was like, oh, that's a little too on the nose, or oh, that's a little too, like the design of this thing doesn't really, it kind of clashes with the composition. So probably upwards of like 30 hours or something like that.
We heard a little bit about your dedication to your craft and the practice that you take to be at the level you're at. Can you talk about the sacrifices that you've made? Because anyone who really dives into a craft and wants to pursue it is making sacrifices. So what sacrifices have you made to achieve the work that you've created?
I think the number one, well, maybe I won't say it off rip. A big sacrifice is time, and because just so much of it is, all right, I am sitting down, I am deciding that I will be here for, it could be an hour, 2 hours, the whole evening, and then do it again tomorrow, and then do it again the next day. There are so many chances to do anything else. You could choose to be entertained. You could choose to consume. I think that can be the fight as well, because there are so many really cool things out there to consume. And I have to remember, like, wait a minute, I'm a part of this too. Like, I don't want to just be the person that is consuming something else that's out there. I want to put my own thing out there as well. So time is probably the biggest sacrifice, I think.
Other questions?
So you said that the two paintings over there were part of the New Jerusalem of the 12 gates. Does that mean there's like 10 more that we don't see here?
There are 10 more that just aren't made yet. Yeah, I hope to get there at some point where a whole exhibit is just those pieces. Yeah, so that will come at some point. As far as when that will happen, I'm totally unsure right now. I'm bouncing back and forth between a few different projects, and it's not quite priority right now.
So it was brief. Is this working? Yeah. Okay. So it was briefly mentioned you've done work for a stained glass company recently. How do you think that has affected how you've been working on your own work unrelated to stained glass? Because when I see, particularly, I think it's icons, the animals seem rendered as if there's light shining through them like they are glass. Was that done before or after?
That was done before.
Okay.
And so the stained glass situation, I mean, that's my full-time job as of right now. I actually have the design department team. They showed up. They're right back there. So that has very much influenced what I do, whether it's design decisions that I make, how I render certain things. I pay attention to certain things that I just didn't pay attention to for a long time because of this job. What was the other part of your question? Sorry. Or have I sufficiently answered it and I'm just really good at this?
Have you started designing digital works as if they could maybe be stained glass? Just it's so ingrained in the back of your head from designing that it just starts transferring to your own work.
What I think my design, like what my team over here might find funny is that like nowadays I will put like lead lines in between different figures and designs and things like that to see if they could work in stained glass. So this was something that I did not think of before, but nowadays I'm like, yeah, I wonder how would I problem solve this in a glass piece, and like what enamel would I use, or what kind of glass would I want selected for this. So it's very much entered into my artistic psyche.
Hi, I'm next.
Hey.
I was wondering about just as I've been looking through the gallery the past couple weeks, I think all of your pieces are very fantastic to explore and to ponder. And it seems like you're really talented at imbuing subtle meaning into your pieces. How, if you know this, how are you able to find the line between too obvious and too hidden?
That's a great question. And that is, I think that's been my pursuit for a long time as a Christian artist. Because if you were to see the art that I made when I first became a Christian, it was like, all right, we have a guy and he's standing in the mirror and around, like, it's his reflection, and there are like the mirror has sin like on it, like he's like holding a sword and the sword has inscribed on it the word of God, and it's just like, all right, like you're doing too much. I think a lot of that was I mean, I looked outside of my particular circle, and I saw, and I wanted to see how non-Christian artists were conveying like really deep meaning without having to just say, there it is. So that study has helped a whole lot, looking outside of the Christian circle. And honestly, nowadays, I'm like, oh, I can even look within Christian circles as well. There are fantastic artists from the past and right now who are making some incredible work. It's nuanced, it's well-designed. The symbolism is deep and meaningful. So yeah, observing and just taking all that in.
More questions from the audience.
Oh man, you guys are great. I appreciate it.
Looking around, raise them high. I haven't been over here very much.
So I've noticed in a lot of your like tags describing like what it is and stuff, it says that you created them in Photoshop. Are they solely created in Photoshop? And if so, can you like take us through that a little bit?
There are some times where it might start on paper or maybe in like a sketchbook or something like that, and I might scan it in and just take it from there. That one in particular, at Jason standing right in front of that one right there, yes, that one was a sketch at first, and very soon after I realized that I want to make it a full piece, I was like, okay, I'll just go ahead and scan it in and see where this goes. With the sketch, I only had the figure, and that was it. So after I decided that I wanted to make it a full piece, I just kept going and saw where I would land and just kind of ended up there. So I would say that most of these in here started on Photoshop, but every once in a while I might have something that starts somewhere else.
Hands up.
Is digital painting is I am a little far away. I'm used to projecting. Is digital painting your favorite medium? And if so, why do you like it or dislike it adamantly?
Hey, that'd be a problem if I didn't like it. Yeah, I would say that it is my favorite medium, just because of the freedom that it gives you. I mean, part of why I started doing things digitally was really necessity, because I was in middle school and I, paint is expensive. Physical mediums are expensive. And I was like, wow, what's a way that I can make something that is fully rendered, fully in color, all the things that I imagine without the price of getting oils and brushes and thinners and all different types of things. So yeah, I'd probably say that it's my favorite medium as of right now.
All right, I'm next. So, when you get stuck at any point in any of your projects, what is the one thing that keeps you going? So, I know I'm a music major here at Bethany, and I know within like art as a whole, whether music, theater, art, like studio art, stuff like that, there's some points where we can get stuck when we're creating stuff, and it's like, why are we really doing this? So, what are some things that you do to help you get through, to help you continue and finish your projects?
I walk away. That's really part of it, is that if I feel like I'm usually the reason I'll get stuck on something is because I am overworking it. I am I'm just over and over and over again, I keep trying to find a solution like right there in that moment. I will not leave. And I think along my journey, I realized that knowing when to step back and then return to it with fresh eyes, that's when I can see like, oh, that's why this one thing that I was thinking of, maybe subconsciously, I can see a solution for that now. So at first, I would just try to hammer away at the issue until it eventually looked the way I wanted. But nowadays, I'm much more comfortable with being like, okay, I just need to go outside for a sec. I need to live life a little bit. I need to see some things and then go back to it. And I usually find that I can work a lot better after that.
Hi.
Oh, where are you?
Hello.
Oh, there you are.
What is your expectations for your art? How do you want it to reach people?
Yeah, sometimes I've been asked like, I've told people that I'm living the dream right now, because like whether I'm hired somewhere, whether I get a certain job, any of those kinds of things, my main concern is being able to, as long as I can still create the work, then I'm satisfied. It'd be great if I could have like this broad reach and more people are able to see the work and interact with it. But I've done my best to be more comfortable with just like, hey, are you happy doing what you're doing? Like, what's the motive for this? Is it just the numbers? Or are you actually enjoying the thing that you're making? My current trajectory, I'm making a short graphic novel right now. And that is being juggled by a few other things as well. But yeah, just passion projects is what I see in my immediate future. And I hope that eventually more and more people will be able to interact with my work.
Parker.
Hey.
So we live in a digital age, and you're obviously very much a part of that. and everything seems to be designed for mass media and to get views. So, as an artist with a message, how do you wrestle with that and to strive to get more engagement? I guess when you have artwork that maybe exists in a lot of digital noise, and is there any place for a physical product to exist? I guess it's two questions.
No, that's good. I'm finding a lot that people are really valuing physical products a lot more nowadays. It's like once you go down a specific course for so long, people begin to long for the other thing, and so people are really beginning to value something that they can hold. And I think that is specifically what we wanted to do at Fishcoin. So it's like, yeah, you buy the trading cards, you buy the comics and those kinds of things, and you actually have it in your hands, and it lasts. I continue to wrestle with creating and dealing with the online spaces, just because, yeah, it's a lot of people are making things to be seen, and I could very easily do that if I wanted to. Like I've wrestled with, like, yeah, it would be so easy to make the thing that you're making and be seen by everybody, but at that point, I mean, what is my goal? So yeah, I mean, when it comes to trying to find a solution for that, it really helps to be present, be interacting with people online, make your presence known, and collaboration, I think, is a big deal as well, because you connect with an artist, and then you connect with another artist, and then you have 3 people now, and then maybe you work on something together, and you continue to go down that trajectory, and things really blow up, or they have the potential to blow up as you continue to involve more people in it.
So we've been talking a lot about innovations in like technology in the digital medium that you choose to work.
You're not going to say something about AI, are you?
I'm getting there, yeah. I'm surprised it hasn't come up before now, but like with AI and like all the stuff we can create with the click of a button, how are you taking that as a challenge to like adapt your work and like improve your messaging in a way that only humans can really replicate?
Yeah. What would the question be?
So like how are you how is your work shifted with the innovations that AI has brought on?
For me, I think I'm particularly lucky because even with all of the AI art that's out there right now, nobody's really making this kind of stuff yet. So for now, I've been able to just stay the course, and continue to do what I'm comfortable with. There are certain jobs, though, that are definitely at risk when it comes to that. And before I was with Willet Studios, I was pursuing work in the entertainment industry. And so concept art, character design, movies, video games, those kinds of things. And those jobs are becoming more and more at risk now that they're involving AI now. So it's really tough for like people in that area are going to have to adapt a lot. But I think the challenge again, like what you can do when it comes to your counter to AI is your own personal authenticity. Because like at the end of the day, like no AI is going to be able to like truly copy what it is that you bring to the table. And I still feel that way about what I do. Is like, hey, the AI can't think about what I'm thinking of right now. It can't pull directly from my experiences and breathe the kind of life that I'm able to in these works. So it's just been staying the course for now.
Hi. First of all, I'd like to say you have great music taste.
Come on.
Um,
Thank you.
But I was wondering, I know for me, music is inspiration to a lot of my art too. And I was wondering how you translate music into your art. Like, is it more lyrics or like how you're feeling from the music or a bit of both?
Yeah, it's definitely both. I could probably go like all throughout this room and tell you exactly what I listened to while I worked on these. And I think something I might do more of in the future is along with the descriptions that I have with each piece, I'll put like maybe a couple tracks that I listen to at the same time. So yeah, it's lyrics and feeling. It's great when both of those are able to go hand in hand and really energize me for the work that I'm doing. Yeah, yeah.
I'll stand up for you. So
Appreciate
you
that.
were talking earlier about freedom and how artists want to pursue freedom. I am not an artist. I'm just here because my wife is.
Cool.
But
Right on.
so maybe this is an easy question, but I'm wondering, what is freedom? Like, what is freedom for an artist? Have you ever seen artists obtain this freedom? How does that work?
I mean, I would say that hopefully it doesn't sound too maybe self-important, but I say that I'm living it. Whenever I get a chance to go into, like, whenever I go in my sketchbook, like that's freedom. No eyes are looking, nobody else has a say in what it is that I'm creating. It's just me and a blank canvas and the conversation between me and that piece. I think that once you begin to involve other people in it, it's still like there's still ways that you can involve other people and it still be freedom. Like this right now. Like these are works that I've made, and you all are experiencing this. You're experiencing my free work. But yeah, I would say that as long as you are um, as long as you have that intimacy between you and your work, where what you say is what happens, I would say that is freedom.
2 points, counterpoints to that. It sounds kind of stoic, like self-control and self-expression is freedom. And then also, is it true that the more exterior influences, the less freedom? So like, if you're working for someone, you're less free.
I wouldn't say that specifically. I think there's some nuance that's involved in the explanation, because in the case for these pieces back here, yes, I did work for someone, but it aligned with what I already believe in and the kind of work that I already create. So there were some restrictions, of course, where as far as like where the direction was going, but there's still a freedom that can be felt, whether it's 100% freedom or 50% freedom. I think that can be determined. Yeah. All the way. You can just throw it.
You just said something very interesting to me. I'm not an artist, but you just made a comment I've never heard anyone that I know as an artist has said before, and I'm just wondering if you can explain a little bit. You're in your sketchbook, it's you, your sketchbook, and you're having a conversation with your sketchbook, with your art, with your, what does that mean?
Yeah. The conversation is kind of what I mentioned before about every piece at some point it begins to take on a life of its own. Though I'm the person who is like bringing it into action and I'm making it something that's physical. There are some things that I might not have accounted for, or things that I'm not directly trying to control as much. I think it'd be exhausting if like I knew exactly where every single blue was on this piece, but there's a general feeling that I have for it as I'm creating it, and so once a piece is in a certain direction, I begin to give that piece what it needs in order to be the best version of that piece. And sometimes the temptation is like, no, I want you to be this way. I want you to be this way. But sometimes a piece is just going to be like, that. This is who I am. This is all I have to give. So just be okay with me turning out this way.
And that's in your sketchbook as well as
Yes.
finished pieces?
Yes. I mean, that's where a lot of concepts develop. So I might not go straight to one of these larger pieces, but instead I might be in my sketchbook. And I don't always sketch when I'm in there too. Sometimes I write. And so that has really intensified the level of depth that I've had with the work. Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Marcus, I've got 3 here in the back row, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Okay.
Hi.
Hey.
So you've talked a couple of times about how your life and your art kind of like dance with each other, like they interact with each other a lot. So in your opinion, is the title of artist a way of doing or a way of being?
That's so good. I love talking about this stuff. Yeah, I think it can be both. I think the way that it's almost like how I consider worship. So like, is worship just when I get up and I sing, or is it how I'm living my life as well? And so it can be either one. It can be both at the same time. And I think a lot of the times for me, the way I live my life directly bleeds into what it is that I create. So I would say both.
I came in a little bit late, so hopefully I'm not making you repeat yourself.
That's okay.
But you made the passing comment earlier. You didn't want to be like too on the nose, and so it seems like you value the, like was said earlier, that subtle symbolism. And you said that you drew from inside Christian circles and outside Christian circles, but I wondered if you could talk about that a little more. So, is there any like particular mythology or like culture that inspires like particularly your symbolism and what you choose to use?
When it comes to symbolism, I think a lot of times that can come from music, which is the funny part because it's not visual. So music drives a whole lot. Lyrics drive me a whole lot. As far as a method is concerned, I don't know if I have one specifically. I think that some of it has been research. I think the most accurate method has been like what I have done sometimes is I'll look at pieces that I'm particularly inspired by throughout history. It doesn't have to be something that is current, but I'll look at it and then I'll see what I'm interpreting from it, and then I'll look at what the artist has to say about it and what their actual intention was. And then I'll analyze and compare the two. I think that has been helpful, though it's not like the main way that I do it. But spending time taking in that kind of art from outside Christian circles has been incredibly helpful. Not from all places outside Christian circles, because there is crappy art out there. Yeah, I think that's what I would say to that.
Marcus, thank you so much for coming up to Mankato and sharing yourself with us. And you hinted at it earlier that there was a time as an artist where you weren't a Christian, and now you are. And it's similar to some of the other questions that have been shared lately, freedom and things like that. How has being a Christian affected and changed you as an artist?
Yeah, in every way it has. I was, man, that's so good. My whole, it's affected my worldview, so it affects my subject matter, and it also affects the drive for excellence that I have. I feel like I have a duty, though I'm totally free to do whatever. I feel like I have a duty to make sure that the work is as good as possible. And so there's a drive for that I believe that my faith has really spoken to. The subject matter, of course, I mean, the most important message of the gospel, I want to make sure that is being presented. And I've even been like somewhat of a missionary in that sense on some websites. I don't know who in here is familiar with DeviantArt. Only true artists, man. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's like I would go on those kinds of websites, and I was like, this is a place where there is not a Christian base. People are hostile to the message that I have to present them here. That pursuit was something that I did not think of before. Yeah, worldview, work ethic, and subject matter.
Okay, that wraps up our questions. Couple things just to remind you of or to think about. Chairs probably should go way back by the elevator. If you could help out with that, that helps us see the work. On your way to our refreshments. Also, a new feature next to the big TV, there's a guest book. There's about 4 names in it right now. Please just leave us a little message, a little record of your visit. Just a nice little piece that's fun for us to look back on someday in the future. Let's thank Marcus Thomas.